back again like I never left. Yo, we are officially over 500 strong. We've passed the threshold. We broke that threshold of 500 subs and we're close to 600 subs. Next stop, I don't want to push it or limit us to 600 subs this month or the month of September. Next month, I want to be greedy. I want to be greedy and say, let's get to 1,000 subs. Let all of us get to 1,000 subs strong, right? By the end of next month, by the end of September, okay? Once we get there, I'm thinking of doing another series, but it's not going to be any series. I'm thinking about doing Kingdom. Let me know if you guys vibe with that. Before we begin, Oda. I called you 3 times. Like, what are you doing? You're going too crazy right now. Relax for a little bit, okay?
Daddy, chill.
This is too much for me. Too much of a pace. Like we're speed blitzing this thing, right? We're speed blitzing this thing. Chill out for a little bit. But I see what you did there. 3 forms? All right. Luffy better have more than that. But last chapter, Gaban told Luffy he needed to understand what being the Pirate King actually costs. So I thought that this chapter 1191 was going to be Luffy's big comeback chapter. Nope. Not even slightest. Luffy can barely stand. Gaban is still missing an arm. Imu somehow unlocked another demon transformation or form. And right when Gaban is about to protect Luffy again, Hajrudin sends the king of the world flying. Then Loki comes back, right? And by the end of the chapter, Harald or King Harald's 2 sons are finally fighting together. Luffy is standing between them, and all 3 of them are throwing one massive attack at Imu. Chapter 1190, right, was Gaban telling Luffy he can't keep carrying this journey recklessly. This chapter might be showing him the other half of that lesson. He doesn't have to carry it alone. One Piece chapter 1191 is titled Loki is Here, and we open with Luffy trying to make his way back over to Scopper Gaban. The first thing he notices, the old man is somehow still alive, which is fair, right? Gaban is still there missing an entire arm after fighting Imu and still somehow has enough energy to still complain. Luffy apologizes because Gaban lost that arm protecting him, and Gaban is basically looking at him like, fam, you are the problem. You're the problem here. This man has spent 2 chapters getting mutilated and roasting Luffy at the same time. Like, that Raja pirate work ethic is different. But Luffy is also in horrible shape as well. And one of the most interesting things he says is that if he goes back to his normal form right now, things are gonna get bad. So basically, this is confirmation that Gear 5 is clearly helping keep him functional. Now, I'm not going to overcomplicate that yet, okay? He's badly wounded. He's barely moving, but while he can hold this form, he can still do something, right? And Gaban knows that they are not out of danger because when we finally cut back to Imu, yo, hold on. Like, yo, Gaban actually messed this man up, right? He actually did some serious damage to Imu. Like, Imu is bleeding, right? Panting on the ground. Last chapter ended with Gaban losing an arm, so I think some people came away from that like Imu just shut him down. Nah. Gaban got his receipts too. Imu actually comments on him surviving Honebami, the Bone Eater attack, while only losing 1 arm. Only 1 arm. Imagine getting your arm ripped off and your opponent calls that an impressive escape. Fam, that tells you how nasty that attack is supposed to be. But it also tells you how strong Scopper Gaban actually is. This was not just some old man buying Luffy a few seconds. He hurt Imu enough for Imu to acknowledge him. And then Imu says something that made me go back and reread the page all over again.
What the shit?
He mentions rocks. Rocks D Sebek. Like, why are we talking about rocks right now? Imu brings up the Roger crew, God Valley, the people who survived that incident, right? And basically expresses regrets that they weren't all wiped out back when rocks also got wiped out. Now, I'm not going to start assigning every single person Imu is talking about because this translation is too important to get cute with. But the broad point is clear. Imu personally remembers God Valley. Imu remembers Rock's Disabek, and Imu is looking at what some of those survivors became decades later. Like, yeah, probably should have killed all of you. Probably should have killed all of you. Like, that is a crazy piece of information for Oda to drop in the middle of a fight. And we're coming back to that in a discussion video because there's way too much hiding inside that line. And then Imu transforms again. Like, what? Like, at this point, I'm done naming these forms, okay? I'm done. I'm not calling it a hybrid form. I'm done. I'm not calling it an awakening. I am done. I'm not calling it its final form. I'm not calling it the final form, right? I'm calling it the next problem. That's it. The next problem, right? Imu gets much bigger. His arms blacken. The horns and wings become more pronounced. He grows 2 more horns like Hellboy. Those weird eye cover rings moves around the body. The scar imagery is more obvious. There's that covenant looking mark on his arm, which is weird because I thought Imu was the one giving those marks. And then Imu still has Honebami as well. Basically, Oda looked at that previous design and said, yeah, I need more Satan. Let me grab my pen. Yeah, I need more Satan. I need more Satan. And the weirdest part is how many symbols are built into this form. The eyes, the skull, the mask, right? There's definitely more going on here than the villain gets buffed, right? And I'm deliberately leaving that alone for now because this is theory video food, okay? For now, all we need to know is this. Imu came back looking even worse and even more menacing. Like, what? Imu! Yo, again, if this is Imu and everybody in the world cannot even defeat Imu, how strong is Joy Boy? How strong was Joy Boy? I gotta be honest. Yo, Oda. Like, then Oda cuts away from all of this for 1 page just to make me suspicious of an owl. Robin confirms that the books are okay. The books from O'Hara are good. Biblo saved them. And Saul notices that Biblo is actually trying to tell them something. Brook is surprised because apparently he thought Biblo never spoke, okay? So naturally, they call in the one guy qualified to translate owl, and that is Chopper. So then they meet and Biblo says, ho ho, ho ho ho, ho ho, right? And Chopper understands that, but for us, we have no clue. All we get is ho 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 ho. We don't understand that. And Oda, thank you for that, because bruh. Now, I'm not going to pretend that I know what Biblo is saying, because Oda didn't give us that. Maybe it's something huge. Maybe it's part of the ancient history. Maybe he wants a snack, right? Maybe he wants a snack. We just don't know. But Oda specifically stops this fight to show us that Biblo has something to say, right? So I'm keeping an eye on it. I'm focused. I got you. We're here, Oda. I peep it. I see it. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I got it. Okay? I got it. Now, back on the battlefield, because we cut back, right? Back on the battlefield, Gaban is still trying to get Luffy to leave Elbaf. He tells him to take his crew and leave, but Luffy refuses, right? Gaban basically tells him, yo, look at yourself, right? You're almost a corpse. You cannot do anything. You're useless. And this is where I think people can misunderstand what Gaban was saying last chapter. He never told Luffy, never risk your life. He never said that. That would be one of the worst pieces of advice in One Piece. He was basically telling Luffy, understand what your life is worth right now. See, Luffy is an emperor, and if he goes down, his crew suffers, right? His allies also suffer. The island Elbaf itself suffers. There are consequences now. Explaining to Luffy that he needs to stop being reckless. Gaban, missing an arm, right, is still there getting ready to stand in front of Imu again. This man has absolutely no interest in practicing what he preaches. Imu winds up Bone Eater, right? The Honebami attack. Gaban gets ready to block the attack. Luffy is yelling. And then, yo, that attack, yo, I was so happy to see that. Oh my God, Hajrudin, good job. I was so happy. Ecstatic. Then, I was basically like, as soon as I heard Gundi, I'm like, Hajrudin? Is that you, my boy? Is that you, Hajrudin? Where has this been since Dressrosa? Hajrudin comes in with Gungnir, the hero spear, and absolutely launches Imu. And yes, before anybody starts arguing about scaling, right? Let Hajrudin have his moments first, right? Because this isn't completely out of nowhere. Hajrudin has always had ridiculous raw physical strength. We saw that back in Dressrosa. But what makes this moment hit isn't the feat. right? It's who he's hitting. Loki is not Harald's only son. Hajrudin lost his father too. We've spent so much time inside Loki's pain that it's easy to forget Hajrudin had every reason to want a shot at the person tied to King Harald's tragedy. In chapter 1191, this chapter finally gives him that. So yeah, Hajrudin sends Imu flying. The range is crazy, right? And I don't care if he regenerates a few seconds later because that punch meant something. I know Imu felt that in his capillaries and arteries, right? And what I really like is Hajrudin doesn't just hit Imu and disappear. He doesn't just land the hit and disappear. Imu retaliates with those Omen Maki projectiles. Hajrudin has seen them before during this battle. He gets his shield up. The shield breaks, but it saves him. When another attack comes towards Luffy and Gaban, Hajrudin gets in front of that as well. That detail matters, because last chapter Gaban protected Luffy. This chapter, Hajrudin protects both Gaban and Luffy. Gaban has spent all this time talking about what it means to have somebody's back, and now the whole battlefield is starting to reflect that. Then Gaban tells Hajrudin something important, right? Because they asked. Luffy asked as well. Their opponent is immortal and a god. And that changes how I'm looking at Imu. That changes a god? That changes how I'm looking at Imu because Gaban proved Imu can bleed. Hajrudin proved Imu can be thrown across the battlefield, be flung all the way there. So maybe the problem was never, can anybody hurt Imu? The problem might be, what happens after you hurt somebody who refuses to stay hurt? That is a much worse problem, okay? Then Hajrudin gets a line where I immediately started checking the page for Black Lightning. Gaban tells him they need to retreat. Y'all need to dip. Hajrudin refuses just like Luffy. Even if it costs his life, he will not submit. Now, I'm not putting Conqueror's Haki on his resume just yet, but come on. This man wants to become king of the giants. He wants to unite the giant tribes. He's Harald's son. He's a grand fleet captain, right? And he's standing in front of the literal king of the world saying, I will not bow. Oda, I see the application. And I'm waiting for the approval stamp. Cause bruh. And while Hajrudin is doing all of that, Luffy is trying to get himself back in the fight. Last chapter, Luffy was yelling at his body to heal. Fam, hint, hint. And I said then that I wasn't ready to say that Gear 5 can regenerate anything through imagination, right? Y'all remember that? Well, chapter 1190 gives us a little more information. For this transformation, food clearly matters. Luffy basically fills himself back up and forces enough energy into his body to move again. He's not fresh, he's not magically back to 100%, but Gear 5 is doing something very strange with how long this damaged body can keep functioning. And for now, that's enough for me. Luffy gets just enough back in the tank for one more move. Then we get my favorite little moments in this chapter. Hajrudin still refusing to run. And he basically says, yo, even if something happens to me, we still got Loki. And Loki comes running out of nowhere, right out of the forest. Then he looks at Hajrudin and says, brother, Aniki. Yeah, that got me. Because Harald's death has spent this entire arc separating these two. Hajrudin believed Loki killed their father. The whole Elbaf did. Loki has spent years being treated like Elbaf's monster. There's anger there. There's suspicion there. There's resentments there. And now the person tied to their father's downfall is standing in front of them. Suddenly, they don't need a 5-page therapy session. They know who their enemy is. And for the first time, they're standing on the same side. Luffy finally gets enough strength to get back in the fight to join them, right? Hajrudin, Loki, Luffy. All three, right? Harald's two sons and Nika, right? They line up. Loki gets his weapon ready. Hajrudin prepares his own attack. Luffy loads up his fist like he always does. And the three of them launch this huge Gokoku sovereignty attack straight at Imu. The entire clash is exploding with energy. Imu sees it coming, raises both hands, and Oda ends the chapter. Like, this is nasty. You do not need to end the chapter there and then go and break, Oda. That should be illegal in all 4 blues. And to be clear, we do not see the results of what the attack did. We don't know if Imu blocked it. We don't know if Imu gets launched. We don't know if Imu takes damage or regenerates, right? Whether Imu pulls out form number 87. We don't see anything. Nothing. That is the cliffhanger. But there's something about that final image or the silhouette when he was transforming that I am intentionally not talking about in this review, right? Because if you put that panel next to something Oda showed us in Elbaf, which is the mural, things start looking very weird. That is the next video, so look out for that. So overall, right, I liked One Piece chapter 1191 a lot. It's not as law heavy as last chapter. It doesn't need to be, because last chapter, One Piece chapter 1190 was the lesson. One Piece chapter 1191 is the response. Scopper Gaban carried Monkey D. Luffy when Luffy could not move. Then Hajrudin stepped in when Gaban couldn't keep doing it alone. Loki came back for his brother, and once Luffy had enough left in him, he joined them. Nobody replaced Loki. Nobody replaced Luffy. Nobody replaced Scopper Gaban. The responsibility just started spreading. And maybe that is what Scopper Gaban has been trying to get through Luffy's thick skull. That's all he's been trying to do. Being the Pirate King doesn't mean nobody ever has to save you. It means when the world gets this bad, when your back is pushed against the world, you better have people willing to stand back up with you. And One Piece chapter 1191 gives us just that. Now, let me know what you guys think. Let me know what hit hardest for you guys. Hajrudin finally getting his shot at Imu, Imu bringing up Rock's Decent back and God Valley again, or Loki finally calling Hajrudin his brother, or that final attack, Goku's sovereignty. Because next video, go back and look at that panel again, then go back and look at the mural. Yeah, we need to talk about that. Anyway, I love you guys. Appreciate you guys. You guys are right here in the heart. Let me right here in the heart. Right. I appreciate you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace. Love you guys.